Hello everybody, we're going to talk about Elder Scrolls lore today, specifically Kvatch and Colovian lore, and we're going to go through my lore notes here as a guide. I'm going to show you them from time to time so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, I got this lore by researching on the Imperial Library website and reading everything I could find about Kvatch. Doing this online is much easier because you can just search. You can search for the word Kvatch and then search for words that pop up in relation to Kvatch, like Rislav and things like that, and the 33rd. And you can follow that through and uncover all kinds of things that are interrelated. Now, first of all, you've got an awful lot of background detail here, like this Slive's journal, who basically talks about how he tried to warn Kvatch about an impending attack, and the Sunken One. Right, which I believe is Miraz Dagon. Miraz Dagon and Kvatch have a long history together. Right, he's attacked Kvatch a few times, and the Empire itself, and that's what that is. This is the whole background to Kvatch. Now, if we go down here a little bit, you've got various Daedra lords and things about the Empire, and how the Colovians were instrumental in ending the Lycian rule. Because this is history. This is Colovian history here. I mean, here you go. It appears that Colovians were instrumental in ending Lycian rule. It says that it spawned in the First Era. The fall of the Lycian Empire, so this was the start of the First Empire, or the end of the First Empire, and generally each era covered the lifespan of an empire, be it the Elysian Empire, the Roman Empire, or the Septon Empire, First, Second and Third eras respectively. So, the Colovian estates projected and kept alive the religion of the 8 divines prior to Tiber Septim becoming the 9th divine. It says a lot of talk about Eastern Cyrodiil and Western Cyrodiil is told, which is probably why we get the Beth plan for the Duke of Colovia and Nibony that never came to pass. Right, this is important, this, right? In my Elder Council mod, I actually cover that. It's the main plot of the Elder Council mod in Arenthia. This is where Cameron came from, and that's where my Duke of Nibony escaped to. So, whilst the Arenthia is the focus for the Elder Council plotline, it's also the home of Cameron the Usurper, who attacked Kvatch, which supplies all the background history from my my Kvatch Rising mod. So it's quite an important city, Arenthia, from a Cyrodiil point of view. And the Duke of Colovia, which you get promoted to, you end up fighting the Duke of Nibony in Arenthia in the Elder Council mod. So I made that plot line come to pass in my own mod. It might have been planned and then abandoned by Bethesda, but it was implemented by me. So you get lore that was intended but never created in some of my mods. Now, the buildings of Kvatch, interesting note about the buildings of Kvatch is they're very similar to coral buildings, but the stonework's different. So it struck me that I could retexture the coral buildings, make them into Kvatch buildings, and it'd be a close match. The problem was Kvatch was built as a demo for Oblivion, and the buildings were too small, because obviously they hadn't done the rest of the game at that point. The buildings were too small to be usable, and they were all destroyed anyway. So if you look around Kvatch when you're playing the game, you'll notice every building is like the size of a waterfront hut. So what I did is I retextured the coral ones in this Kvatch stone and used those. And the result, I think, fits the Kvatch style almost perfectly. So this is where I got it from. Basically, you couldn't use the Kvatch ones because they weren't right. They were the wrong scale. And there we go, so a little bit more here, look. The arena. Now, the only city in Oblivion that has an arena is the Imperial City. That's the law, right? Nobody can argue with it, because you go and find me an arena in any other city, you won't find one. And people used to say to me, it's law that you're supposed to have. I said, no, it was intended law that some cities had it. Kvatch one got burnt down. That is actual law. And no city got rebuilt the same way after being destroyed. And I live in one. My home city is it's the most bombed city outside of London from World War II, and it looks nothing like its pre-war self, and neither does any other city that was destroyed during the war. So you wouldn't get Kvatch rebuilt quite the same way. Anyway, by looking at various cities, and when I was designing my city overhauls, I realised that the arena area is actually included in Anvil and Coral. They have an area called Arena in both of those cities. So the arena was intended to be in Anvil and was intended to be in Coral, but was never included. So anyway, if anybody wanted to go back and do intended lore, they could do that. I did rebuild the arena in Kvatch because everybody wanted it. Not because it was lore, because they wanted it. Right, so that got rebuilt, and I made it into a lore aspect by making it part of the Oblivion plot, and reprisals against Miriam Dagon's forces and have them dispense justice in the arena. So I made it work, but it wasn't supposed to be there. It's supposed to be burnt to the ground. The castle itself in Kvatch, that was far too big on the inside and far too small on the outside. It was like walking into the TARDIS. So I made some changes to that. In Kvatch Rising, I made the inside match the outside. So the inside is more or less a match for what you see when you're walking around the Kvatch castle, which brings it into line with more realistic ideals for the castle. And here we have, on the first era, 472, the Kingdom of Skingrad and Kvatch form an alliance after long years of territorial dispute. Rislav Lorich is married to Bellini, the daughter of the King of Justinus of Kvatch. This is important, that is. Rislav. Now, Rislav the Righteous here is a book. And see all that? That's about a guy who basically becomes important to Kvatch. And if you go into Kvatch Rising, you will see a street there called Rislav Way. It's named after him. And this is important, this is, because just as you might find a pub called the Fighting 33rd, right, which is a unit of battle mages that fought Mehrunes Dagon inside Kvatch in the distant past, right, Rislav is also a character of Kvatch, part of Kvatch's history. Same with the Fighting 33rd, having a pub named after them, right? These are all important units and history of Kvatch. So when you walk around Kvatch Rising, you see all these names. They are accidental. These are all taken from lore. It gives Kvatch a history which has never been told in full in Oblivion. I pieced it all together myself when I rebuilt Kvatch, and as a consequence, Kvatch now is a walking, talking book, a lore book for Kvatch. All you have to do is walk around, listen to what people say, look at the sites, and you'll be getting a full, in-depth immersion into Kvatch lore simply by playing that mod. This book in particular, the Rislav the Righteous, is a book I recommend you read if you like Kvatch lore, right? Because it is important. In the Third Era, to 249, Cameron the Usurper invades. He comes from Verdingwood. It's in the brief history of the Empire, this is. And this is the extract here. But basically, he says he conquered Verdingwood, says, and he moved north. Now, he went through Colovian West on his way to Hammerfell, but he conquered Kvatch with the help of Mehrunes Dagon and undead forces and things like that. The Verdingwood plotline and the Kvatch plotline, and the Elder Council plotline merge at this point. They all become one. So whilst they're different mods, they do cover the same thing. And removing one mod removes an element of the lore that other mods use as well. So if you have the Elder Council installed in Kvatch Rising, you get the full Monty. So that's why you should keep it. Anyhow, there's loads of stuff here. I mean, that one there is the refugees. I actually included refugees as part of my mods because of this. So this is why you see them running around cities. Antinous Pinder. This is a bit of lore. It was right under my nose and I completely missed it. I couldn't see it for looking, says this is how it works sometimes. So this is also a game lore and can be included in the mod now. The line below is the quote from the official source on Pinus Pinder. Says, and is the entire quote. It says nothing missing. Right, Pinus Pinder led a hopeless defence against superior force. Despite a grave defeat, his statue stands in Kvatch to honour his courage and spirit. This would have been the first invasion, a first sacking of Kvatch by Cameras the Serper, because he wasn't there. The statue was already built at the start of the second sacking of Kvatch. So he would have been one of the guys who led the defence against Cameron. Cameron, is the one from Vernon we'd mentioned earlier, and Pinus Finder is a statue we see in Kvatch with his hand in the air. So again, right, we have history. Anyway, that's a quick overview of the Kvatch lore. Hope you found it interesting. I do this for all my lore mods. If I could do a video like this for every single one of them and give you an overview. But I find it's important when you're making these mods to actually do this research, because when you're actually making the mod, the more you know lore-wise, the better the story is. You saw the result of that in Return to Helgen, when I made the mod there, and you Russ become Emperor. That's the result of many, many hours studying lore coming together for one storyline. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.